Good night, everyone. Tonight, God is good and God is good all the time. My name is Erma John. We give you a word on tonight. We still doing Bible study. We in Isaiah, a prophet against Egypt and Cush. So in the year that the supreme commander had sent by Solomon, king of Israel, had came to attack and capture. So Isaiah reminds you that they should not count on foreign alliance to protect them. So there was a line there was allowing foreign alliance to protect them to the God. So God consider a sign through Isaiah if they keep serving foreign gods. So at that time, the Lord had spoke to Isaiah. So the Lord can speak to Isaiah. Now he says to him, now God is speaking to Isaiah, taking off your sackcloth clothes from your body and the sandals from your feet. And he did so, going around stripped and barefoot. Now, God had told him, now take all your clothes off. Take your sandals off. And he gonna run around for 3 years. With no clothes on and no shoes on. So God commanded to Isaiah was to walk around naked for 3 years. Just humiliating him, experienced that God was using Isaiah to demonstrate, the shames that Egypt and Cush would experience. Now, he was using Isaiah, for a sign, to Israel, to the Philistine. He was using that a sign to them. That's what's gonna happen to them. So Egypt and Cush will experience. They will experience the same hand of Israel, but the message was really for Judah. Don't put your trust in foreign government. No one cannot take God's place. So they were trying to have other things to try to take God's place. But no one cannot take God's place. We're not supposed to serve other gods. We don't have but one God we're supposed to serve. So God had asked Isaiah, to do something that seemed shameful. Now someone else, they probably wouldn't have did it. But Isaiah did something that was seem so shameful. But he followed God's command at that time, and God may ask us to take a step that we don't understand. So Isaiah didn't ask no question. He didn't understand. God had told him, I need you to take your clothes off. I need you to take your sandals off. And he didn't ask no question. He didn't understand why he had to do all that. And then he had to do it for 3 years. And he didn't ask no question. He followed God's command and did what he was told. So now God gave Isaiah instruction. But really, it was for the rebellious nation, who would be stripped and taken into captivity. Now, so this wasn't for Isaiah. He just used Isaiah for a sign for Egypt. That's what he did it for. He said it gonna be it. He said it's really for his rebellious nation. So even though Isaiah probably completely knew a sign of shame, and defeated, now when God finally punished an evil nation, he leave people empty of hope, full of shame. So then the Lord has said, just as my servant Isaiah has gone stripped, barefooted for 3 years, so as a sign and pretend against Egypt and Cush. This is what it's really for. Now this is all about corrupted leadership, brought about the collapse of the social condition, of Jerusalem, and contained Isaiah prophesied that for the sin of the people. So God, so Isaiah had he prophesied what God had told him. So he letting them know about his prophesied. You know, so the king of Israel will lead away script and barefoot. You know, so Egyptian captured and crushed. Exalted young and old with bullocks bear an Egyptian ashamed. Now, see, these are things that God gonna do to them. You know, He just used Isaiah for a sign. You know, He prophesied to them what is gonna go on. You know, so the exposition of the sign, it was intended to sanctify. You know, that the Egyptian and the Ethiopians should be led away captivity. You know, so God saying they're gonna be led away captivity. You know, by the king of Israel. You know, they're gonna be stripped, you know, rags, very the clothes, you know, the sandals gonna be old. So Isaiah was, you know, so those who trust in crush and rose in Egypt will be dismayed and put to shame. You know, so God's saying, if y'all not gonna put y'all trust in me and you're putting your trust in crush, this will gonna happen to y'all. You know, you're gonna be shameful. You know, if you put all your trust in Christ and not in Him. You know, so now this is what God is saying to them. This will happen to you. Now this is what He said. You know, this was gonna happen to you. You know, so at this point, they should be afraid and ashamed right now. You know, so at this point, they should be scared. You know, they should be afraid. You know, they see what Isaiah gone through. He out there butt naked, walking around for 3 years. Now, he's a sign that this was gonna happen to them. This what they're gonna have to do. You know, so right now they should be afraid and they should be ashamed that they're gonna have to do this here. You know, so at this point, they should be afraid and ashamed to in that day the people who live on this coast would say and see what had happened to those we rely on. You know, so these will flee, you know, for help and deliverance from the king of Israel, so how they can escape. You know, so there's no escape. You know, we can't escape from God. You know, you remember Jonah tried that. And what happened? He got caught in the fish. You know, so the inhabitant of this coast, you know, land, many soldiers believed that the action of the prophet was originally intended as a warning to the Philistine and that it connected with the Egyptian and crush is a secondary development. You know, so we see that Isaiah was trusting to take his was instructed to take his clothes off, you know, his sandals off, you know, and walk around for 3 years. You know, but it was intended for the Philistine who was being evil, you know, and God said this will happen to them. Now God said this gonna be happening to them. And God said you ought to be afraid right now. You ought to be afraid and ashamed right now. You know, and He called them an evil nation. He called them an evil nation. You know, He said, so God prophesied to Isaiah, you know, to take your clothes off and your sandals off. You know, He representing a sign that God gonna allow His people to go through. You know, so these are prophesied against Egypt and crush. Now, Egypt and crush. You know, God put a sign on Isaiah. You know, what's going to happen to them. You know, because there was an evil nation. You know, there was an evil nation and God had to send a sign down to them. Send it down. Because, see, God don't want us worshiping other gods. You know, and they were worshiping other gods. You know, they worship other gods. But God said, you keep on doing what you're doing. You know, you're going to be doing the same thing Isaiah doing for 3 years. You know, so that's all the word I have for you tonight. Y'all have a blessed night, and I'll see y'all on the next video.